Welcome to the CFCL Season 4 College Football Playoff Selection Show. The field has been expanded, and we're looking for the top 12 teams to give a shot at the national title. As always, I'm your host, Mango, and let's quickly look at our conference championship results before we dive into our rankings. Starting off in the group of 5. In the American, a contested battle between Tulsa and 23rd ranked Rutgers went down. Tulsa came out on top in the 38-36 win, finishing 11-2 on the season, and was probably eyeballing that G5 auto bid depending on the results in the Sun Belt. Conference USA was a little bit slower as UTEP and ULM played a 21-10 defensive battle, where the Miners claimed the conference once more. It wasn't pretty, but they remain the defending conference champs. The MAC featured an upset as Buffalo took down Ball State 20-14. The Cardinals were scoreless at half but made it close late, falling just short as Buffalo wins the conference in back-to-back seasons. Perhaps the biggest shocker of the week came in the Mountain West Championship, as 4-7 Wyoming beat 10-1 Nevada 28-21. The Cowboys may not be making a bowl game, but they can claim the win at the end of their season and the conference title. Closing out the group of 5 was 11th ranked Troy taking on 22nd ranked Arkansas State. Troy was looking to avenge their only loss on the season and managed to claim that as they won 23-20, and in all likelihood earning the favor of the committee and allowing them to enter the college football playoff. Opening the Power 5 games in the Big Ten, Ohio State knocked off Wisconsin 35-28 in a competitive 4-quarter game. Wisconsin's college football playoff hopes may end here, but for Ohio State, they are definitely looking to snatch one of those byes. The Big 12 featured a big upset as West Virginia punched a ticket to the playoff by taking down number 2 ranked Texas A&M 34-27. This is certainly one of the offenses to watch and keep an eye on as they take advantage of the auto bid here. In the Pac-12, Washington got revenge on USC for the early season loss, taking them down 41-34 and claiming another one of the auto bid slots. USC may just have to compete for a slot now, but we'll see how their ranking unfolds. The SEC gave us a fun game, where Georgia took down Alabama 21-20 as the Crimson Tide's backup quarterback didn't have enough in him to take down the big dogs. Alabama will probably need a lot of help to get in now, but they certainly have some quality wins to help that resume. Lastly, in our chosen game of the week, the ACC Championship, Miami tossed around NC State on both sides of the ball, putting up a whipping of a score at 41-10. The Wolfpack might not be at risk of dropping out completely from the playoff, but this definitely is going to put them in a tougher position. Without further ado, let's see who has what it takes to make the first ever CFCL 12-team playoff in the NCAA 14 era.
Every given Saturday. In the thunderous roar of stadiums packed to the rafters, and under the bright lights that illuminate the gridiron battlegrounds, a new era dawns. 12 teams, battle-hardened and hungry for victory, stand poised at the threshold of greatness. Each snap, each tackle, and every touchdown brings them closer to the ultimate prize. A shot at immortality in the college football playoff. For 12 teams, the season is just beginning, with the toughest battles yet to come. As the nation watches with bated breath, The stage is set for an epic clash of titans and underdogs.
Throwing right into the end zone. Caught for the touchdown.
The college football playoff. Who's in?
And with that, it's time to reveal who has made the final cut. Starting at the very top with number 1. No shock here. It's the only undefeated team in 13-0 Miami. Miami ran the table in a tough conference with wins over Florida State, North Carolina, and Virginia Tech. All 3 teams which could be looking at their own playoff bid. Number 2, taking another auto bid. It's your SEC champions, the Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia dropped a game mid-season to Tennessee, but otherwise has made quick work of most of the SEC. After a down season last season, they might finally be back to form. Taking our 3rd slot, it's the Ohio State Buckeyes. While they weren't always perfect, they won the biggest and most important games in the season, including claiming the Big Ten title for the first time in their program history. And taking our last auto bid for the first round bye. In the number 4, it's the Washington Huskies. So their win over USC in the Pac-12 title game ended up being enough to get ranked over both the Group of 5 bid and keeping the Big 12 out of the top 4. At number 5, speaking of the Big 12, we have the conference runner-ups, Texas A&M. The Aggies dominated most of their opponents but stumbled against Texas and later West Virginia in the conference championship. Coming in 6th is the controversial NC State Wolfpack. They played an easy schedule, relatively speaking, with just 3 of their regular season opponents meeting the .500 or higher mark. And when NC State lost, they lost big. This has got to be their chance at redemption. In the 7 slot, it's our G5 auto bid, Troy. Although they might have gotten in anyways, the auto bid definitely sealed their stability as they got revenge on Arkansas State in the conference championship. Samson Lewis has put up insane numbers all season, and he'll give the Sun Belt a shot at both glory and respect. And at number 8, the lowest they could possibly be ranked for winning the conference, it's the West Virginia Mountaineers. Because conference champions are guaranteed to earn a first-round home game, we knew they'd be in the top 8, but those 3 losses did end up holding them all the way down to the 8th slot after all. In slot number 9, it's North Carolina. They looked like the top team for so much of the season, but they got upset by not only Pitt, but also 4 and 8 Duke to close the season. Their wins over Washington, Virginia Tech, Florida State, and NC State ended up being enough to get them into the field. And number 10 here, it's the Florida State Seminoles. Also sitting at 9 and 3, they played a very tough schedule. The controversy around Florida State is they lost all 3 games against teams that have already been revealed to be in the playoff. But they do have wins over Texas and American Conference champs Tulsa. Texas could be looking at their own playoff bid, so we'll have to see how that unfolds. Before we do that though, let's change pace and knock out some of the playoff hopefuls. Number 25, it's LSU, finishing 8 and 4 in the SEC. Number 24 is 7 and 5 Michigan, who's had both embarrassing losses and respectable wins. At 23rd is Temple, who looked like the American Conference favorite until they fell short late in the season. Number 22 is Michigan State, a team with both ups and downs as the season unfolded. Coming in at the 21 slot, it's Tulsa, finishing 11 and 2, with a good win over Rutgers to claim the conference. 20th is 9 and 4 Wisconsin, who was a touchdown away from making the playoff after starting this season 0 and 3. At number 19, the San Diego State Aztecs come into play. San Diego State looked good, losing only to Ohio State and Nevada, who ended up claiming their conference championship slot after all, winning the division. Number 18. It's claimed by South Carolina. Finishing the season at 9-3, a win over Tennessee really started a recovery on the season for them. Sliding into 17th is the TCU Horned Frogs. TCU started very strong and had really good wins, but managed to get upset multiple times and ultimately cost them the season. In the 16th slot, we have Virginia Tech. So finally we're going to see an ACC team here that's excluded from the playoff, with 3 ACC teams already having their spots. Number 15 is Alabama. Alabama looked to have a good shot, but somehow couldn't beat Ole Miss or Vanderbilt, and then lost to Auburn in the Iron Bowl again. Even one win in these games might have been enough. Our rank 14 is Texas. The Longhorns looked like the national favorite after beating Texas A&M, but around mid-season they slowed down and began playing bad teams close and completely dropping others. Now, just 3 slots remain. We can safely assume that these teams are Penn State, Tennessee, and USC. Penn State has the best record of the 3 at 10-2, but lost the biggest games on their schedule and is now missing their starting quarterback. USC has a good win or two, but also some questionable losses on the season. Tennessee has one of the best offenses in the country, with 2 wins over top 25 teams, but losses to Alabama, South Carolina, and even Marshall earlier on. So what mattered most? Coming in at number 11, Penn State ends up claiming their stake. So the committee believes in Kenny Kittles and Penn State to put up a fight as they attempt to climb all the way to the top. That leaves just Tennessee and USC. Will the committee punish USC for playing and losing an extra game? Claiming the final spot, in number 12, we get the USC Trojans. So the Vols are left out after all, and USC will play Texas A&M in the first round. Here is the bracket. Getting first round byes are Miami, Georgia, Ohio State, and Washington. Number 12 USC will travel to College Station to take on the Aggies of Texas A&M, where the winner will play Washington. 11 seed Penn State will take on the 6 seed NC State in another playoff matchup here in the first round. Number 10 takes on number 7 as the Florida State Seminoles take on the Troy Trojans, who are trying to make their stake as the G5 team. And lastly, number 9 plays number 8. West Virginia versus North Carolina. Truly a battle of offense versus defense. Which one wins championships in the modern era? That will be it for our playoff field. Those are your 12 teams: Miami, Georgia, Ohio State, Washington, Texas A&M, NC State, Troy, West Virginia, North Carolina, Florida State, Penn State, and lastly, USC. And now, not everybody's going to be playing in the college football playoff. So of course, we have to go to our bowl games and see who is playing who in the postseason here. Nevada takes on Oregon in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. In the Arizona Bowl, San Diego State will be taking on Tulsa. In the Gasparilla Bowl, we have Iowa State versus BYU. Iowa takes on South Carolina in the Las Vegas Bowl. The New Orleans Bowl gives us San Jose State taking on Arkansas State in a matchup of G5 teams. The Hawaii Bowl pits UTEP versus James Madison. The Quick Lane Bowl gives us Oklahoma versus MAC champions Buffalo. The Military Bowl, Western Michigan versus Arizona State. Rutgers takes on Nebraska in Duke's Mayo Bowl. In the Holiday Bowl, Pitt takes on UCLA. Pop-Tarts Bowl are two top users playing each other that did not make the playoff. Are Michigan State and Alabama. That's Coach Lunar versus Coach W. Nathan. The Texas Bowl is TCU versus Auburn. Armed Forces Bowl is Kansas taking on Temple. The Alamo Bowl pits Colorado versus Texas. The Guaranteed Rate Bowl is Kansas State versus Washington State. Wake Forest plays against Stanford in the Sun Bowl. The Music City Bowl pits the Big Ten versus the SEC as Mississippi State takes on Michigan. Our Liberty Bowl is Ole Miss versus Texas Tech. The First Responder Bowl is Army taking on Georgia Tech. Purdue takes on LSU in the ReliaQuest Bowl. The Citrus Bowl pits Wisconsin versus Tennessee. The Gator Bowl is Florida versus Virginia Tech. The 68 Ventures Bowl is Marshall versus Ball State. And lastly, the Toilet Bowl. Who plays who in the battle of not even mediocrity, far, far below mediocrity. Arizona versus Houston. The two worst teams according to multiple metrics taken into account, including power indexing, rankings through the course of the season, and of course the resumes of those teams. Arizona beat just one team, an FCS opponent. Houston beating an FCS opponent themselves, and also winning against UTEP somehow. So that'll do it for our postseason games. Good luck to all users playing in those games. Hopefully this can be a chaotic but fun postseason. And all that's left is to see how these games unfold and who is the Season 4 national champion.